Hello. There's great excitement in our household today because Claire is due to go off to Specsavers to receive her new glasses. She's been blundering around for the last 3 years or so since she last had her eyes tested, and it's getting more and more difficult for her. So everything's really blurry. It's quite frightening what she'll see when she looks at me next time because I've been better out of focus over these last years. Today's reading in John's Gospel is about some Greeks who want to see Jesus. I wonder what they'd been thinking about this character that they'd heard about, perhaps even seen at a distance. I wonder if what they saw in the end was quite what they imagined they were going to see. John's Gospel has now got to the point where he's in Jerusalem. We've just had at the start of chapter 12 the triumphal entry, the Palm Sunday reading in John's version. And now we come to the point where he centres on the fact that he's going to die. That's why I'm out in the garden, really, because he starts talking about seeds. He doesn't have a parable of the sower like some of the other Gospels. You remember a few weeks ago there was the parable of the sower and then the parable of the wheat and the weeds growing all at the same time. And I showed you, or told you, about a sunflower that had accidentally, as it were, started growing in our garden. And behind me you see that it's now over 1 metre tall and doing well. But John now, when he is approached by the ones who have been approached by the Greeks, they go first to Philip, and then Philip comes to Andrew, and then Philip and Andrew together come to Jesus. But Jesus actually almost ignores them. He starts talking about a seed that has to fall into the ground in order that life flourishes. Jesus isn't quite changing the subject completely, though, because he goes on to say that this is the hour when the Son of Man will be glorified, and I will draw all people to myself, including the Greeks, not just the Jews. And so we've got this strange dynamic right at the start of the Passion narrative in John, where some Greeks come. It seems a meaningless thing to add into the drama at this point, but John's Gospel, as we know, starts off with a very complicated and philosophical prologue that's geared towards Greeks understanding who this Jesus character was. Remember, it starts, in the beginning was the Word, it was with God, the Word was God. It's all to do with this Greek concept of logos, the Word. Greeks would have loved that. It was right in the stream of philosophical discourse that they were used to. And so it's actually quite significant that at the point where Jesus shows who he is in the Passion narrative, the death story of Jesus, which has many, many chapters in John's Gospel, we actually have some Greeks coming and saying, we want to see this clearly. But I want to draw your attention particularly to what happens. The Greeks want to see Jesus, and they come to Philip. Philip's a Greek name. Philip goes to Andrew. Andrew's a Greek name as well. So, in other words, the two disciples who are approached are the ones with the Greek-sounding names. I think that's very significant as well. It is true, actually, that when people are looking for Jesus, they approach people like them who they know are close to Jesus. I think think that's very telling for the way in which we have conversations with our friends. It's a big thing, not so much about going to see amazing evangelists like some of us did a long time ago with Billy Graham. Now it's a matter of evangelising your friends. And we're not very good at that, despite the fact that we've been told all the way through the Gospels that that's what we're supposed to do, to go out there catching people to become friends of Jesus as well. We aren't that good at it, even though that's probably the way in which we became a Christian in the first place, because of people we knew. We're reticent, I think, because we're afraid of losing a friendship. But it wouldn't be much of a friendship if we lost it just because we talked about the things that are most important to us, would it? And sometimes we don't do it because, well, we did it once and it didn't seem to work. That's not such a good argument, really. I've been watching a bit of cricket over these last few days. England pulled off that amazing win against Pakistan. Whether it'll continue, we'll see in the next test matches. But the two best, most successful English bowlers ever are Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, who are still bowling for England. What an amazing partnership they have. Stuart Broad's got 507 wickets, I think. Jimmy Anderson, 590 test wickets. Amazing. Fantastic that they're there together, bowling in tandem, as it were. But their strike rate is very similar. That's the number of balls they have to bowl before they get a wicket on average. And for both of them, it's 56. So for every 56 balls that they bowl, they only succeed once. And yet we have tried it once, this friendship evangelism, and we've given up. It doesn't work. But you've got to persist. That's the fast bowling philosophy of evangelism, as it were. Keep going. Keep going. So what we find when we come to the passion narrative of John, which we're going to be getting into now, is that we have to try to enable people to see clearly what's happening. And it's tough because we sometimes struggle to follow some of these stories. We have to try and help our friends to understand what's happening. But don't just stay with our friends as well. If it is the same person, as many scholars believe, Philip, this one who introduces the Greeks with his brother, with his friend Andrew, to Jesus, goes on to become the one who dares to tell people very different from himself about Jesus as well. He goes in Acts 8 to Samaria to speak to people very different from himself, the centre of the Samaritan faith. And then he goes to that desert road and talks about Jesus with an official from Ethiopia. That's the way in which the gospel spreads to Africa. You see, we don't know from a little seedling like my sunflower how amazing the growth is going to be. Do your best today. God bless.